All right, and we are live with our first interview on the series of sponsored streams, welcoming Dayvisson DaSilva, who's a customer success manager at IBM. Dayvisson, would you like to sort of introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so like you said, Dayvisson DaSilva, currently actually running the sponsor uh, project with Marcelo and you, Peter. we I work for IBM, currently working for IBM as a CSM. Very busy all the time. I'm a dad, husband, have 3 kids. I love what I do at home, love what I do at work, and love technology, like to learn and help my customers with what I do. Work in the cloud. I work between being a consultant, helping customers transition to the cloud, but also holding their hands during the onboarding process and helping them to know our catalog, know all the things we have, so they can be successful during that transition. And love what I do. At the end of the day, just serving and helping other people and organizations.
Awesome. Sounds like the good life. um, so can you tell me a little bit about your journey you went to BUI, Idaho, correct?
Yes, BYY,
Can
the
you tell,
expert.
yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey from BUI, Idaho to working at IBM?
Oh, okay. So I'm old school, graduated in '07. Uh, by the way, at that time, my position, whatever I do now, my work, it didn't even exist, right? So it was impossible for me to plan what I am right now. So that's a kind of a cool question because even though I knew I wanted to work for a Fortune 500 company, I had no idea that I would be doing tech sales. Uh, so basically, how can I uh, walk you through that? I always worked in sales. I always worked in customer service and sales. So these two things has been part of my most of my jobs. During college, even every summer, I went to work door to door sales. I did for the money. Of course, I learned a lot of good things with the
Right.
experience. And then right after college, I got a job as a customer service doing sales again. And that was my first job. Then I got involved with operations management with Walgreens, became a manager, stayed there for a few years. And growing up in Brazil, I always heard about IBM. It was, it's one of the oldest companies alive and
Right.
a very good reputation. So it was always on my top 10. It was always on my top 10 list. I always coach students and help them plan. And I tell them, hey, you got to have your top 10. You got to have a top 5, a top 3, whatever. IBM was always on my top 10. I didn't know I was going to do an IBM, but I knew it was there because it was a big company in Brazil. And during college, I didn't really, I was really focused on education and getting as much knowledge as I could. I wasn't really preparing for a job, so I didn't really have a plan to I want to work in IBM in sales or HR or whatever. So it just kind of happened. I actually found a job via LinkedIn. I saw the position I applied for because of my sales background and my customer service background. I didn't have any technical background, but they liked my personality. They like the way that I interact with during the interviews, during the objections, during the demos that I had to do, and didn't get an offer. I didn't get the job. It wasn't like a beautiful story. I applied and interviewed and got the job. No, I didn't get the offer, but I left a good impression. I think they liked it. And the funny thing is, I during my last interview, I was giving a sales presentation for 5 managers, and one of them really liked me. And then 3 months later, he called and said, "Hey, I have a position in my team now. I liked the interview. You're not interviewing for my team, but I like to. And do you still are you still looking for a job?" I was like, "Yeah." So I actually got to work for him, and have been tech sales now for over 3 years. I love the fast pace of technology and how that was changing, and I cannot be in my comfort zone, and I always have to be learn something new, and that's kind of organically I made my way through to tech, and never planning to be in tech. I was dreaming about working for a big company, but didn't really prepare much during college for it. It just happened.
Okay. And you said you focused a lot on your education and knowledge. How did you sort of build your experience to work up to being working at IBM? And what sort of obstacles did you face besides obviously the getting no offer from IBM initially? What would you say are some of the obstacles you faced?
To get a job or in the job
Just sort of entering
transitioning.
the transitioning from college to working in a job.
Yeah, I think the first obstacle that I had to overcome it was my confidence because I wasn't in sales in tech. So I had to tell myself that I was able to do it, that I was able to learn, and I never shy away from obstacles when it comes to learning. If there's something that I have a certification I need to get, or if I have to go through a training process, I'm all for it. So it was just kind of my changing my mindset because for the longest time I wanted to work in HR. When I went to my MBA, most of my classes were in HR. I tried to transition to HR, and it didn't happen. So I was a little bit frustrated that I didn't make it to HR. So it was more like a mindset change that I had to go to another route to something unknown for me, which was in technology. That was probably the biggest obstacle.
Okay. And if you could go back to college, would you say there's anything you would do differently, or maybe things that really helped you where you are today that you would give advice to other people to do while they're in college?
Yeah, so my experience was a little bit, I wouldn't say different, but as an international student, my focus was just to come here and study. I wasn't really um, concentrating in getting a job during college. So my focus was to get good grades. I wanted to get really good grades so I could get scholarships. So I could, because I didn't have money, so with that scholarships, I was able to pay for my education, right? And also every summer, I did instead of looking for an internship to develop my skills or to try something new, I was trying to work for money to survive, basically. And yes, I did graduate with debt free. I had $0. Didn't owe any money when I graduated from college. However, I feel like I missed a lot of opportunities to get involved. For example, um, those are the recommendations that I would give. Since I was way too focused on getting good grades and getting the education, I would take more time. I would just slow down. If I were back in college, I would just kind of take step back, slow down a little bit, and try to find more opportunities to volunteer. Um, I did help organize a club on campus. During that time was the Brazilian Association, but that was basically the only thing I did, and I could have done more. I even thought about running for student body president or doing stuff like that, just getting out of my comfort zone and getting more involved in opportunities on campus. Um, the other thing I would do, I would um, get more mentors. I had one or two, but more like a life mentor, not like a mentor for career development uh, for career coaching. I or someone in a profession that I wanted to work, for example, HR. I never had a mentor in HR, so I would highly recommend. That's what I would do differently, and recommend students to get mentors. Um, the other thing, I took a note here. Um, Actually, yeah. Sorry, I got a little bit lost
No
in it.
worries. Um,
Um,
it sounds
yeah,
like students a lot of times students are focused on sort of the end goal and not really what leads up to achieving that goal. So it sounds like what you're saying is basically find different experiences that are going to help you build skills in different areas and not just focus on how am I going to achieve getting this job at this company or um, something that's super far out, right? Is that what you're kind
exactly,
of saying?
exactly. So, like, I mean, as you can see, the industry and the jobs, a lot of the new jobs, the hot jobs right now, they didn't exist back in the days. Like, for example, data scientist. A lot of the, I think students need to concentrate on getting skills instead of getting a job. And then at first, and then over time, they're going to start seeing, okay, with all those skills that I have, those are the positions that are those companies are looking for to hire. So, but if you don't have those little nuggets of skills, then you're gonna end up towards the end. So my skills were sales, right? I was selling, I was knocking doors, hustling, and then and of course other skills that you develop through sales and customer service. But developing those skills and not worrying too much about the final role or the final position, because that position might be gone by the time you graduate, or might be completely different.
Right. And I know you said as an international student, you weren't really necessarily focused on getting internships. Would you say that internships are pretty important to like once you graduate, are internships a good thing to have, or are they necessary? Or do students not really need to worry about it if they get
Yeah,
one?
internships, they they are a must. I actually had my internship. My internship I did at Walmart. I was doing a management trainee program to run a store. So I did my 1 year internship at Walmart during my junior year. During my senior year, I was working as a career advisor for other students during my last year in college. Uh, Internships, they are a must. If you really want to get that dream job, that dream opportunity, you have to have experience. You have to have. It doesn't have to be like a paid internship. It doesn't even have to be, a Fortune 500 internship. Of course, if you get a really good company and then you get, good money for your college education, that would be the ideal. But you can volunteer for nonprofit organizations. You can volunteer on campus. You have to think about projects and how you can measure your success on those projects. That's basically what you need to do so you can build up your resume. So internships are definitely a must. Of course, for international students, a little bit tricky because we have to go through a lot of sometimes like hoops and loops to be able to get even approved to go work off campus. Most of the job we have to do is on campus. That's why my one of my best jobs, which was my last year as a career advisor, was on campus. But if you can go out, go out. If you're international students, go the extra mile to get out of campus and get the experience you need, get real experience, and apply the things you're learning in school. If not, you're gonna completely forget. Of course, the teachers try to do their best to do projects and do simulations and demos and things for you to apply. But real life application, it's out of your comfort zone. It's completely different and highly recommended.
Right. And I guess participating in projects could help, even if you weren't able to get an internship, because obviously internships are pretty competitive nowadays. But
Yeah.
what advice would you give to someone that maybe didn't have the opportunity to have an internship? How would you tell them, or what advice would you give them to help them stand out when they're applying for a full-time position? after graduation.
Okay, so no internships. Um, they're gonna have to work really good in telling a really good story, right? They're gonna have to. Okay, I didn't do internships, and this is why. But those are the things that I have done throughout college. If it all depends also of the jobs that you're looking for. But lately, honestly, a lot of companies, even I'm gonna talk about tech companies like Google. They just announced like the other day that you didn't need to have a college degree to get the best jobs they have. You can get a certification. You can okay, fine. I was just studying the whole time. I didn't have time to get involved. I didn't have to go on internships. I was just studying the whole time. Good for you. Did you get a certification? No. Did you drill down to a very niche skill that you can now give back? So if you didn't have a chance to have an internship, it's okay. Of course, the having internship is much better, but I would say go look for hard hard skills like certifications or badges these days. If you go to IBM, for example, there's a website that you can get all sorts of badges and certifications for free. So if you show up on an interview, yes, I didn't have an internship, but guess what? I have 5 certifications from IBM, and I know how to do exactly what you're hiring for. I don't think they're gonna care about an internship after all. You know what I mean?
Right. And I guess it sort of goes back to like showing results and stuff like that. And even taking those skills and applying them to your own projects could certainly help students in that sort of situation.
Yeah,
Um,
the ideal scenario is to keep that balance, right? You have academics and application. So if you just only concentrate in academics, the application might be a little bit. So you have to try to keep that balance. Only internships, and then I was really concentrated on going to grad school. I knew I wanted to go to get my MBA, so my grades were important. So I had to concentrate a little bit more on academics, and still managed to do my internships on the side. And of course, a lot of times my friends were going on trips and going on vacations, and I was on the library, studying and working part time, studying full time, working part time. But that was the price I had to pay being an international student. Um, if I, kind of a, I don't like to play the underdog card, but yes, just having an accent sometimes it makes it a little bit harder. Let's say that. So I had to work extra hard. So my recommendation is just try to keep a balance between academics and application, and have to look for the gaps after all.
okay. I want to sort of ask a question more specific to IBM. Um, what advice would you give to students? What should they be doing now to prepare if they wanted to eventually work at IBM, either in customer success or really just tech in general?
Okay, so I I really like that I'm in the tech industry right now. First of all, uh, I know it's really sad what's happening in the world, and a lot of people being laid off and all this craziness because of COVID-19 and all that. But like my unit is busy, IBM is busy, the cloud where I work it's busy. It was before and now even more. So I'm really glad I'm in technology. It's a future, right? So a lot of those companies, you have to find a way to technology. So my recommendation would be you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to adapt quickly. During the 3 years that I have been in IBM, I have changed at least 3 or 4 positions. Sometimes I come to work and I'm selling something that I never heard of it. I have to catch up on the spot. Like sometimes the customer will call and I'll ask about a solution that I never heard, and I have to be willing to learn. So if you don't have a growth mindset, if you're like, oh, I'm done with college, I don't want to open a book anymore, I don't want to forget about studying, forget about technology, because you have to refresh and relearn always have to be refreshing, relearning. So you have to be open-minded to change, open-minded to learn, to have to have a growth mindset. And I had something in my mind and I forgot. But the other recommendation would be try to learn like every company. Let's say if you want to work for IBM, specifically for IBM have specific technologies, specific services that we offer that Azure or Microsoft or AWS, Amazon, they don't offer, right? So try to get as many certifications or knowledge or badges or training on that specific company. If you really want to work for IBM, try to learn IBM products. And even though you might not have the experience, you might not have um, even worked in tech before, but all those things you're gonna learn on the spot. You're gonna learn on the day-to-day job. As long as you are willing to learn before you start, that's a huge plus for you. So if you wanna maybe work for Google, try to learn Google's portfolio, Google's products, get Google certifications. They're not gonna care way too much about your grades. They're not gonna care a whole lot if you uh, even had an internship, right? As long as you know their solution. That's the game in tech right now. Like someone can come, not even being in college, and they can go to a community college, or they can just open the internet and then learn the skills that they need to do, and they can be on the same position, getting paid the same money as someone who had college or even a master's degree, like me, for example. Like, so that is the being willing to learn the skills needed to perform on the job. It puts you on even ground with all the other people, all the other competitors.
Okay. And I guess it kind of ties back into what you said about adaptability, because honestly, technology is always changing. There's new things coming out. Even cloud, it's developed, but it's still growing and changing. Um,
Exactly.
well, you've given a lot of good advice so far. I'd like to close out with one more thing. Is there something you didn't mention that college students and other recent graduates that you think is really important that they should know?
One thing that I didn't mention. Uh, that's a good question. Well, I think the future of education is really unknown. A lot of people are making a lot of guesses. The experts, but it's really unknown. You're in college now, and in 5, 10 years, it might be completely different. So instead of worrying too much about, maybe I talked about that already, but I would concentrate in not worrying too much about the profession that you want to land. I always heard, even growing up, like, oh, you might not end up working for something that you study for. Yeah, you probably heard of that also, and you're probably hearing all the time that the average time that people are moving between jobs is like, I don't know, the number 5 to 8 times. And yeah, so it back in the days. I mean, you would study, you would go to school, and then you would be like, okay, this is my track. These days, honestly, there's not really a track. Concentrate. You create your own path. Like, let's say that, create your own path. Think about the skills you want to develop. Think about the skills you want to learn in those 4 years in college, or 5 or 3, um, and then write down those skills. I like to call the dream resume. Okay, I didn't talk about that. There you go, the dream resume. The dream resume, what it is. I have helped a lot of people do that. Instead of you're just gonna write down all the skills you want to develop you don't need to know how you're gonna get there, how you're gonna learn. Just write it down. Um, the ideal case scenario, like how you feel like your resume should look like in 4 years. That if you're a freshman, if you're sophomore, first year, second year, whatever in college, write down how you want a resume to look like at the end, and then try to find experiences, projects during class. Things are just going to start coming your way for you to apply and to learn those skills. It's amazing how it works. Like right now, for example, I have like my 5-10 years plan of the things I want to learn, and stuff just start coming on my way that I didn't plan for, but it's just, but if you have the end in mind, things will take place. And those things are things that um, a lot of times students are not thinking because they're just busy with day-to-day assignments and homework, and and social life and everything, which is great, and enjoy it, and take advantage of this time because you'll never come back. But also dream and try to visualize how you want to be in 4 years, 3 years, in what the things you want to do, and just write it down. Take time to meditate, to think about the things you want to achieve. And a lot of times you don't need to know how, things will just happen.
Awesome. That's really interesting. I've never heard of the dream resume before, but I may have to try that out myself. Um, I think all of the information you've shared with us has been really valuable and is going to be of great use to all of our students. So thank you very much for chatting with us, and we hope to speak
Thank
with
you.
you sometime again soon.
Thank you, Peter. Let's go.